One of my hot button topics within the first few weeks of school was Google Classroom, which is Google's new offering to move our classes online and to simplify our assignments through Google Drive. You can access it through the tic-tac-toe board in the upper right-hand corner of your Gmail screen and then scrolling down until you see Classroom, or you can simply type in classroom.google.com. Either method will take you there, and I do recommend bookmarking it once you have gotten to the page. Once you have loaded the Classroom page, you will likely have to tell it whether you are a teacher or a student, and if you are a teacher, then please select the teacher option in the bottom right-hand corner of your screen. If you are a student, then select student. As a teacher, you can become a student of other classes. As you can see here, I am a student in most of these classes that you see on the screen, whereas as a student, you cannot have classes. So it's very important that you select the right one, although if you don't, you can put in a tech ticket and they will correct it. Once you are logged in, creating a new class is as simple as following the white arrow up to the plus sign in the upper right-hand corner. Once you click on the plus, then you can click Create Class. Then we can title our class, whichever method that we'd like to choose. Okay. And then we can give it a section title if we'd like, and then click Create. Then you see that it has created a class for me. And that's pretty much the main thing that you need to do in order to start a class. So to get students into the class, they have an access code on the left-hand side of your screen, which you can reset or you can disable. That makes it really easy for students to join in the class. So I'm going to navigate over to another teacher's screen, and I'm going to have her join my class. So I'm going to type in the code that I see on the left-hand side that is specific to the class that I would like this teacher to join. As the class loads on her screen, I'll start pulling back my screen so now you can see both. Now, as a new student, to join the class, you can go through a tour. And I do recommend going through this with some of your students. And if you have an Apple TV in your classroom, this makes it really easy because you can pop this screen up from one of your student laptops onto the projector and then go through the tour together, ensuring that you all understand all the steps. Okay. So on the left-hand side is my teacher screen. On the right-hand side is my student screen. On the left-hand side is the teacher. Usually the first thing that a teacher wants to do is how do I make it look pretty? And that you can do by just changing the class theme by clicking here. And then once the page loads, then you can select any of the pre-built themes that Google Classroom has available to you. Now they are pre-built, so you cannot customize them at this time. Perhaps that will be a feature down the road, but it's really nice because it makes it easy to update. And I do recommend updating your class theme to be something different because there are a lot of classes that have the same theme. So it will help your students differentiate one class from another a little bit easier. And now as you'll notice, my student view on the right-hand side changed without needing to refresh the page to match my teacher side on the left. Okay, so going through all of our options as a teacher, I'm going to skip the stream page for now and continue on to the students page. On the students page, you can see any students that are enrolled in the class. You have control over the class code here. You can reset it or disable it if you so choose. So if all of your students get into the class and then you want to close it out, you can disable the class code access. If you wanted to invite students to the page, you could always use the invite screen and then navigate for the students within this pop-up. However, I would really recommend using the class join code because it is a lot more effective and it puts the ownership back on the students and not onto you. If you do have students that need the little bit of extra help, then this is certainly a good option for them. Okay, I'll just refresh the page. Then the other option is that we can email individual students, and if we click on this link, it will open up our Google screen, so that way we can compose an email to the students. If you have a whole class of students, you can also check all of them or check only certain students and then send them an email as well, and the same thing applies. And once you've done this, you'll notice that up at the top, all of the students would load into this to field at the top. So it reduces your need to do a mailing list like other teachers have done in the past. Very easy to do. That's about the only place that you can, that's about all that you can do on this page. On the About screen, you can give your class a title and a course description. If you so choose, this might be for the high school level what the actual course title is in the course book, and this might be that aforementioned description in the course book. What room are you located in? The teacher's email associated with this class, as well as a link to the folder on Google Drive. Now, this happens without you knowing it, but if I were to click on this link, I will open up a folder within my classroom folder on my Google Drive that will have all of my assignments in it that I do on the class. While that's loading, I'm going to navigate onto the student view so you can see what that looks like. Same thing applies. Student view, I would click on the link and I would be taken to the folder. Now on the teacher side over here, this screen, we'll look at it later, but is going to be populated with folders for each assignment that I do in my demonstration class 1 block 2. On the student side, this is going to have in this folder every assignment that they do for my class. So within Classroom, there's Demonstration Class 1 Block 2, and then on mine, within my classroom, there's Demonstration Class 1 Block 2. For the student view, all the files will be in one spot. For the teacher view, they will be separated out by assignment into different folders. So we'll close that window and navigate back. I hardly envision having to go to the Google Drive folder at all because Classroom really does take care of it all in terms of navigating and finding the files that you're talking about. On the student side, just to navigate back a little bit, you can see the classmates screen instead, and classmates can message each other through here, which they could do anyways through their Gmail screen, so there's no additional access given. It just lets you see who else is in your class. So let's get to the fun part. So if you click onto Stream, and I'll click on the Stream on the right-hand side for the student view as well. On Stream, the analogy has been made by one of my staff members that this is really like a Twitter feed for your classroom. And I think that that's a pretty accurate way of looking at it. As you add content to this page, then your announcements, your assignments are going to be pushed further and further down the page. So if a new student joins your class, you'll be able to navigate down your whole list and find everything that you've done for this class since you've joined Classroom, since this class was started. The first type that you can do within the stream is the announcement type. And if we click on announcement, or if we click up here, the same thing happens. But when we click on announcement, we basically have a screen that lets us type in what our announcement is for the class. Here is today's handout for class along with the video lecture. Now I have the ability to attach a file, and if I attach through here, if I navigate to find a file, then it will upload it into my Google Drive for me. If I click on the Google Drive icon, it will navigate into my Google Drive and let me find a file within my Google Drive that I want to have access to. If I press this one, it will let me search YouTube. So I could search for example, the CNN Student News, and I could add this onto the assignment. I could also include a link. So if I wanted to link to CNN, link to it. And let's, while we're at it, find a Google Drive document. And let's find this one. Okay. All of these the student has access to see, but they do not have access to edit. Okay. Now this particular document here, because it is a Google Drive document, You may want to double check the privacy settings on that, but as we're going to see on the right-hand side, we'll get a good view as to whether this is going to work or not. Then this drop-down arrow is really awesome. Because I have more than one class in my Google Classroom, I can also check this box to have it applied across all the sections that I teach. So if you have 7 sections of the same class, for example, or 6 sections, however many sections you teach, of the same class, and you want them all to get the same assignment or the same handout, then you can check both of these boxes before you click post, and it will pass this announcement on to all of the sections that you've checked. So we'll click post, and then we'll see just how fast it happens on the student end to see this announcement. This is incredibly helpful because as a student, oh, here we go, one new item has been posted to the stream, so we can refresh the page. As a student, we often, or as teachers, we often are finding ourselves giving students handouts that they can't keep track of. They wind up in the bottom of their bag, or you send it as a Google Doc, but then they can't find it because it's buried in their email. And doing handouts through the announcement makes it really easy to keep track of what's going out. And here on the student side, we see here are all 3 documents that we need for today's class. And if I were to click on this Google Drive document, then you'll see that as a student, I have view-only access to this document. So that's pretty awesome. You can do a Google Drive handout for class and then only give them view access through that. So awesome. Now the real fun part is the assignment screen. When we click on assignment, today's writing prompt, we can add in, here is where you should submit your So we've put in some text for the title. We've put in what the description is. We can add a due date as well as a due time. We have the same 4 options that we had before. Now the big thing here is that when we navigate into our Google Drive and find the file that we want to add to this one, and for the sake of argument, I'll find the same document. For this one, I can create this file through 3 different options. I can give the file to them as a view file, which means that basically this is a handout. So if I was giving them directions on how to complete a project, then this would be really useful because then they wouldn't be able to edit the document on their own. Students can edit the file, maybe like a running, for example, class notes. So if you have IEP and 504 students, then this would be really handy because then all the students in your class would be able to edit the same Google Drive document at the same time. Now, yes, it can get a little muddy, a little complicated when you have that many students in the same document trying to edit over each other, but you can have up to 50 students, I believe, in the same document. So it's pretty limitless. And then the most awesome one is the ability to make a copy for each student. And what happens here is when it says make a copy for each student, it's going to take this Google Drive document name and then append the student's name at the very end of it. So on this instance, my student over here, it would be the full file name dash her first name, her last name would be what I would see in my Google Drive. And it would also be what the file would be default named to in her Google Drive. Now they can modify it. That's a mistake that I made early on in trying to figure out Google Classroom, is that the students can rename the document. So it's a good teaching point because you can teach them how they can rename, but for the most part, you can also use it to teach about how the titling schematic should work. Then we have the same option. We can apply it to multiple classes. So we can select only 2 classes. We can select only 1 class. You are going to be forced to select the class that you are currently living in. So I can't select class 2 and unselect class 1 because that's the one that I'm already in. Okay. So now that we have this, we can assign the assignment here. And then momentarily, we're going to see the assignment pop up on the student's end instead. From the teacher's side, as that loads, we're going to see today, oh, it already loaded. For today's assignment, we have today's writing prompt, and here is where you would write your writing for today, submit your writing for today's writing prompt. Good luck. So we have 0 done, 1 not done. Each student is going to get a copy of this assignment. From the teacher standpoint, we can edit it and we can delete this assignment. Now, if we come into edit, the option to undo that each student gets a copy is going to be disabled because we've already disseminated this handout to all of our students and they each have their own copy already. We can't pull it back. If you did decide that that was not what you meant to do, you would have to delete the assignment and redo it. Now, if you don't do that option in the first place and you create the assignment, the only other option that you would have would be to either make the document viewable by everyone or make it editable by everyone. You will not have the ability to make a copy for everyone. So that's kind of one of the catch-22s. If you choose this in the first place, or if you don't choose it, you'll have to delete the assignment and redo it. So there are your options. From the student standpoint, over here on the right-hand side, we see that we have received a new assignment at 1:40 p.m. It is due tomorrow with a big fat red exclamation point telling me that I should do it. Then I can click on Open Assignment. And on this page, you can attach files to your assignment before you turn them in, or you can edit the template that I've already provided. You can check the Assignment Details tab to see your teacher's instructions and your materials for the assignment, and then you can also click Add or create a new file from this screen as well. And then finally turn in. So from the student standpoint, we can access this document. Now I've given every student their own access, so my Google Drive document with the student's first and last name turned in at the end. Now, because I'm using this as a template, it also gives the student the ability to turn in the document up here in the right-hand corner. If I don't give them a template within Google Classroom, that option does not seem to be there. So that's a benefit of using the Google template instead of just having them create the document themselves. If you do want them to create their own document, they can click on Create and then choose from any of the 4 options, which is awesome because it lets them have student choice. They can click Create Document and it will automatically create a document for them with the same naming schematic, which can be incredibly handy. Today's writing prompt. So again, we could open up this document and then we could add in today's writing for today's writing prompt. Now you'll notice, oh, the turn in button has come up. So I was wrong on that. Everyone makes mistakes. So we'll close that one. And then finally, we can also upload. So if we wanted to upload a file off of our desktop, for example, as part of this assignment, then we can navigate to here and attach it to the file, for example, as an additional artifact. And if we chose not to attach some of these other ones, not turn them in, then they're removed from this assignment. And then we will click Turn In. At this point, the student can add a private note to the teacher. And then click Turn In. Momentarily on the teacher's side, we're going to see that this assignment has been turned in for the teacher. Oh, and there we go. Instantly, I didn't have to press refresh at all. So now we see that we have one assignment done. As a teacher, if I click on this page, sometimes I don't get this link to come up. So I would just refresh the page and then I would come up with my class stream and be able to click on that as well. Now from here, if I click on the student's name, it will expand the student's submission so I can see her submission here. And I can come in and edit the document as I see fit, adding in my own comments and input. So once this loads, then we have the ability to add comments, and if I expand this out a little bit more, I can also change this mode to be a suggestion instead of an edit. So if you wanted to suggest changes to the document, then you could select suggesting instead, or if you wanted to just view what their final document would look like, then you can change it there as well. Once you have provided your input, then you could give the student a grade on this screen. Right, so I'm going to post her feedback. Then once you have graded it and you've provided your feedback, you want to return the file to the student. By returning the file to the student, you are then giving them editing access to the file again. So that's a benefit of using Google Drive, Google Classroom over using Google Drive, is that you really get control of that submission. When the student over here hits submit, they can no longer edit this document unless they were to unsubmit it, or in this case, the teacher were to return it. Okay, so now we can return the feedback back to the student, return the assignment back to the student. And eventually, here we go, again, without me even having to refresh my page, I now see what I got for a grade and I see the feedback from the teacher. So it's practically instant. It's really, really awesome. Now, the one last thing that I did want to show on this is that you can see the submission history. So when I see a student here, I can see the submission history. So she submitted it as being done on September 30th at 1:44 p.m. and then I returned it to her September 30th at 1:46 p.m. If, as a student, I were to submit it, unsubmit it, and submit it, and unsubmit it, all that would be shown under the submission history. So that works really well. If you have a student that does an assignment for you in Google Drive or in Google Classroom, I'm sorry, I always get the two words confused. If you submit it within Google Classroom and they unsubmit it and resubmit it, then it's showing that potentially they've done some rework on it and they're putting some thought into the assignment. Whereas if you give a student a poor grade on an assignment and they've never done any additional work on it, even though they have the opportunity to do so, then that could provide some good feedback to the parental units at home. That perhaps this student needs some more encouragement to get the reworked work done in order to boost up their grade. And then finally, if you want to see all the assignments for this assignment, then you could click on folder and it will take you into the Google Drive folder where all of the students' assignments are going to reside. They are sorted again by assignment, so all of the assignments are sorted into separate folders. You do not have separate folders for each student, nor can you customize how they are formatted. Now, this would be the one instance where I could envision using Google Drive to access your Google Classroom documents, and that would be if you were to search for a student and find their work within your Google Drive. So I see right here, here's her Drive document, and here's her writing prompt. Okay, so both of those would be items that reside within my Google Classroom because they have her name appended to the end of the file name. And that is pretty much Google Classroom. The download function does not download their assignments. It just downloads what the grades were for all the students if you wanted it as a backup copy. Classroom has been really successful in the classrooms, especially at Bonnie Eagle Middle School. So if you are interested in checking it out and have not already done so, then please make an appointment with me and we can certainly check it out. But as you can tell, super easy to use, and I think it's really going to change the way that Google Apps for Education schools use Google Drive.